Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Grakloros Facts. Today we're going to be starting to talk about the history of Grakloros, specifically Zolandar and the Grecian Empire. So about 5,000 years before the current age, which is currently the year of the new gods, 1168, a young sheep farmer's father united his fellows and usurped their awful ruler. This was Zolandar's father, Hecarim, who was crowned king of Grecia. Under King Hecarim, Grecia flourished and began a conquest of nearby lands, taking over parts of Azure Wood, Lower Saxland, and parts of Sareta. Hecarim ruled for 10 years before dying of an unknown illness. Zolandar was put in charge at the age of 22. He had traveled to the places his father had conquered and seen how neighboring city-states waged war with one another and envisioned on a united world, and over the next 20 years he conquered city-states and nations, from Turkland to the West Isles, up to Northland, and then east to the Mithril Woods. Human lands, elf lands, dwarf lands. Zolandar is responsible for spreading the continent's common language. The world was united and unified under a central leadership. However, infighting and disagreements were common. Unlike previous conquerors, Zolandar didn't force his people to worship his gods, and were free to worship their own. The influence of his gods nonetheless persisted and was encouraged. He had high respect for all peoples that they seemed not to share with their neighbors. When Zolandar fell ill at the age of 45, his people divided, his family and rightful heirs murdered by unknown assassins, and the world split once again and saw war. Chapter 2: The Old Gods and the New Gods. In ancient times, the human world worshipped different pantheons of gods originating from the world of Earth. The Northlanders worshipped the Asgardians. The Saretans worshipped the Pharaonic pantheon. The Grecians worshipped the Olympian pantheon. Saxland, the Isle de Gaul, and the West Isles worshipped the Celtic deities. Usland worshipped the Asgardian as well, but with different pronunciations. The elves, dwarves, gnomes, halflings, orcs, and other non-human races have always had their own gods, though some have adopted human deities. Some 1,168 years before the current age, 3 old wizards from other worlds appeared on Grakloros. Their names were lost to time, but are known as the 3 mages in history books. They explored our world together, learning as much about it as they could. Along the way, they taught spells from their world, which resulted in the creation of the first mages' colleges, as well as introducing Grakloros to their various gods. The old gods have fallen out of favor in recent times because of the magical calamities facing the world. The humans of Grakloros welcomed the new gods with open arms and began erecting huge temples with shrines for all the gods worshipped in a certain area, with services for deities being held at different gods' particular day of the week and time of day. And thus began the age of the new gods. And that's why in the calendar it will currently be year 1168 NG, and any time before that 1168 years has a title of OG, the Old Gods, Year of the Old Gods. Next we'll talk about the Elven Wars. Chapter 3. In the times of Zolandar, the elves lived in tribal communities. The age of the Empire spread new knowledge to them, and they rapidly evolved into the elves we see today. From 300 to 150 years ago, there was a constant standoff between humans and elves. Humans wanted to increase their lands and resources, and began encroaching on elven forests. Humans cut down the forest for timber, and killed Fae freely, seeing them as pests and creatures of treachery. It was just ignorance and superstition. The elves retaliated after some time of fear of fighting the humans. It took the elves 50 years of losing skirmishes before they fully retaliated into the First World War. The First World War, the elves won, retaining most lands back from the humans. The First War lasted for 7 years. The Second War came 10 years later, where humans invaded elven lands with malicious intent. They saw themselves as the rightful rulers of the world and wanted to dominate the elves. It was back and forth for 25 years, until a peace treaty was signed. Humans, having gained some lands in the process, were considered the winners. The Third War came in the next 10 years, when the humans got greedy and invaded the elves again. The elves were ready, however, and the war lasted 14 years before the humans gave up pushing and decided to just retain the lands they had previously. The Fourth War came only 3 years later, as the elves fought to regain their lands. They mostly won, but it took 7 years. The Fifth War lasted for 36 years and came after 12 years of relative peace. During that peacetime, both sides were preparing for an eventual Fifth War. When it came and the war began, it started out bloody and it ended bloody. The humans and elves have only begun repairing and their relationship, with both sides still untrusting of each other. And that's just some history of Grakloros. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you want to hear anything else. All right. Thank you guys. See you later. Bye.